Welcome back to my channel Value Infinity. In today's video, we'll be discussing how plants are able to synthesize protein out of thin air. And even despite being very limited to the resources as they are immobile, they are located in one place and highly dependent on whatever nutrients are available surrounding them, still they are able to create all the nutrients required for the plants or the tree to survive and thrive. They even produce fats within their seeds for their further germinations. So let's unravel all these mysteries and also try to know how the same capabilities are also given to us to derive all the nutrients from whatever food we eat. So let's get started. You might be wondering why I chose this topic of plant protein synthesis out of thin air, despite being a channel which is dedicated to natural lifestyle and food as medicine. It does have a correlation with plant as one of our food sources, but doesn't have an plant protein synthesis as such doesn't have a direct involvement. But plant producing protein with the available source of food is a real miracle, and that feeds us in turn with nourishing us with their protein. So this does have an involvement, and I just wanted to prove one point to you is that if you take plants, for example, which a plant which grows in a jungle, or maybe you grow it in a garden, or maybe growing in a desert area, they have all one thing in common. That is, they don't depend on any unique kind of nutrition or nourishment. They just manage to thrive out of whatever food sources are available in their environment or maybe within their root systems. They manage to derive the nutrition out of that and thrive. Now let's take an example of you eating a fruit. For example, you eat a mango, and after eating that, you just throw away the seed somewhere, like just like that. You randomly throw it somewhere, and you find that after a few days, the seed has germinated and it has started, producing the leaves and the shoot. And all this happens because the seed is already stored sufficient, nutrition for the plant to grow up till a sapling. That is the power of nature. Like, if that is available in that seed, that would have been produced by the mother plant with the available sources of nutrition. So what we could learn out of this is same capabilities are also bestowed on human beings and other living creatures to derive nutrition out of whatever food sources are available. We are actually adapted, which is the power given by the evolution, that we have adapted ourselves to absorb and derive nutrition out of whatever food we eat. Whenever you look into any internet, social media platforms, you'll find that there are so many people talking about eat AHA, DHA, CoQ10, protein, essential amino acids, fats, this fat, maybe grass fed fat. uh, there are so many recommendations and also suggestions, guidance by so many people across the internet. And at times, a common man like me also gets confused. He, like, am I really getting whatever nutrient my body needs? And that dilemma itself puts our body into stress, and you start thinking, overthinking, and not enjoy your food which is available on the table. Have you ever seen a tribal suffering from any kinds of malnourishment, or a wild animal which is deficient in certain nutrients? The answer would be no. Despite being very limited to the resources. Like, if you take a tribal, he's very limited to tubers, roots, and whatever animals they could hunt. They don't have access to all this high quality meat which is so called discussed on the internet, yet they don't have any deficiencies. And the reason is, it's not important what you eat. The most important part is how your body digests it and how your body assimilates and absorbs the nutrient. And the nature has given that tool to every single living creatures on this planet, to convert whatever available source of food they eat to the nutrients which is required by the body. Let's take, for example, a plant or a tree. It is so much limited with resources because it grows in a certain, it's immobile. It grows in a only that specific, maybe 2 feet by 2 feet area. If a tree, if even a small shrub, it is hardly 1 feet by 1 feet area. Like, it is connected to the ground only in that area. Its root system might be spread out, but has access to only that specific area where the root has access. So all the more there are possibilities that plants should suffer from you know nutrition deficiencies or maybe malnourishment, and they may not be able to thrive and survive. But have you ever seen a forest tree or a forest shrub which has any kind of deficiency or is not able to grow properly or fruit properly or thrive? The answer is no. Despite having the limited resources around them, they're able to survive and thrive in their habitat, unless and until there is some man-made intervention in terms of maybe using high great chemicals to eliminate certain kinds of pests, weeds, or maybe unless and until there is an external input in terms of a chemical or a man-made ingredient, the trees and the shrubs and the plants survive and thrive in their natural habitat without any issues. And the moment we start doing abusing the soil by growing multiple plants without nourishing it, then we start finding deficiencies and other issues with plants when we do a gardening, maybe possibly, or maybe when you grow certain plants in a small setup without providing sufficient nutrients. So this clearly shows that even plants, despite growing in a very limited resource environment, they're able to survive and thrive just because the nature has given them the right tool to assimilate, absorb, convert nutrients out of whatever food sources is available to them. And nature has given similar tools to us human beings and every single living creature on this planet with the same tool to convert nutrients out of whatever food we ingest through the process of digestion, through the process of your gut microbiome. They work on the pre-digested and partly digested food and derive all those nutrients out of the available source of food, which your body then absorbs and assimilates. Today, let's take a deep dive into nature's one of the most mysterious and magical factories and alchemist, and that is a plant cell. And we'll try to uncover how this plant cell is able to use sunlight, soil, air, and water and convert into protein and feed the whole world with a protein-rich diet. The plant's nourishment journey starts with the sunlight through a process called photosynthesis. So what the plant does is it converts the solar energy, water, and the carbon dioxide into a simple form of sugar called glucose. And this glucose becomes the basic building block of all the nutrients which are required by the plant. And this basic building block converts into proteins and other nutrients for the plant. These simple sugars are nothing but carbohydrates and need nitrogen to get converted into amino acids. So plants derive nitrogen from the nitrates and ammonia which is available in the soil. And in certain other kinds of plants like legumes, they have a superpower given by the nature. They have nitrogen fixing bacteria in their roots called ribosomes, which have a symbiotic relationship with the plant where they absorb the nitrogen available in the atmosphere and converts it into nitrates for the plants to use it for the conversion of amino acids. And this is a real magical tool which the nature has given them to survive and thrive. So inside the tiny plant cell, these simple sugars and the nitrogen combine together to form the basic building block of protein called amino acids. You can consider these as nature's Lego blocks. They are structured differently to create different proteins. Inside some of the tiny structures of ribosomes, these amino acids are assembled together to form protein. And these proteins are uniquely designed and structured to perform various tasks like to give structure to the plant for the functionalities and also for the storage. You might be wondering where these proteins are stored inside the plants. These proteins are stored inside the beans, seeds, nuts, fruits, and even leaves. So when you eat a bowl of lentils or maybe a bowl of green salads or maybe a handful of almonds, you literally tapping into these green miracles. The simple sugars which is created by the photosynthesis process is also converted into fats which is stored in the seeds, and that is also one of the magical transformation through a process called glycolysis. Actually, it is a very complex process through which the simple sugar is broken down and is through the process of glycolysis. It's converted into pyruvates and then subsequently to lipids and the stored lipids and fats inside the seeds. So what we can derive from this is the evolution has given every single living beings the tools and the processes to make sure that they can derive nutrients out of whatever available source of nutrition. For example, here in this case, like wherever the plant is not able to absorb nitrates efficiently from the soil, they have a symbiotic relationship with the nitrogen fixing bacteria. You can compare that to your own gut microbiome. So wherein the nitrogen fixing bacteria is doing the job of fixing nitrogen from the air so that the plant has higher levels of protein, which can be utilized for their further processes. So similarly, in human beings, we have these unique gut microbiomes which have the capability to produce every single nutrient which is required by the body through a symbiotic relationship where they get a place to stay, and they get a shelter and food from the sources we eat, and in return they produce certain vitamins and certain nutrients which we are not able to absorb uh, from the food sources. So this is a nature's evolution's tool which is being given to every single living being. So next time when you see food on the table, don't worry that what you are eating, because eat with your a thankful feel in your heart, that you thank the Almighty that there is food on the table, rather than seeing whether it will fulfill your nutritional needs. The evolution has already given you that capability to derive all the nutrition, and now it's time for you to look inward. And my humble request is, whenever you come across any deficiencies in terms, like you feel that you're deficient in certain nutrition, rather than blaming the food, try to look inward whether your system is able to digest that available food properly and assimilate all the nutrients. So that is possible when you start looking at your body as we have discussed in our previous video of 5 life energies. So if you try to focus on those life energies, you will realize that if you start working on your within, definitely you will be able to assimilate and digest your food better, absorbing all the nutrients. If you found this video informative or it blew up your mind even a little, then do consider subscribing to our channel Value Infinity, and also press the bell icon so that you get notifications on our future uploads. In my next video, I'll be discussing about the very common social media myths about what to eat and what not to eat. There are many, misinformations and, overload of informations about processed food, refined food, and so on and so forth. So we'll try to bust certain myths there. And so stay tuned for our next video. So thanks for watching, guys. Tada.